Dan, your mic is loud.
My mic is loud. Can I improve it by doing this? Do you hear it better now?
That's pretty
Quiet.
loud. Good.
Good. Okay. I like having controls right on my phone or right on my mic.
Seems a little quiet now, but
Oh, it does. Okay, we can turn it back up. Is that a little bit better?
Sorry,
Hi guys. How is everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
We are fixing.
We were dealing with some technical issues, I guess.
We got it.
Ooh, I'm lagging.
we got more issues than Time Magazine.
I'm a touch low. I got to get in front of the mic there, Gary.
That would have been more appropriate if you just said Dragon Magazine.
Damn it. And you know what's really good is there's a lot of people watching right now. Well, there might be, but they're probably like, "What's a magazine?"
Yeah, yeah. I've seen them in the store. I never go over there though. There's creepy old people there.
Feeds down.
No, it's not.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, y'all. Hi, folks. Uh-oh,
Nope,
we're getting
I
people
see us.
following us. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Oh, there's some ugly faces. All right, I got it.
Okay, so how
What we're doing.
when I'm watching this from my perspective, it looks really slow, but I guess I'm just gonna ignore that.
Yep.
Don't watch the feed.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't watch
Yeah.
yourself.
So just real quick, tell me how to pop out my my Twitch chat.
You go over to the little bars down below.
Uh-huh.
Actually, the gear.
The hamburger.
the gear.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
no, the gear. Got it.
And then
Pop
it'll
out.
say
Got it.
pop
Killer.
out.
Thanks, guys. And I can just minimize your stuff. Got it. All right. Cool. Well, hey, everybody out there in Twitch land, this is the beginning, the genesis of Wizards of the Couch here on Twitch. We've been posting some stuff recently about it. It's just going to be the four of us here tonight talking about all sorts of game. Trained professionals. That's true, Brian. It's that might be taking a lot for granted, but we'll see.
Hashtag.
Yeah, I'm house trained. I mean, certainly. So, but I'm not sure if there's any other training that's really been useful. So, I just wanted to say, everybody out there who is going to join us tonight or will watch this in the future, thanks for joining me. I'm Danny Grimes, and I've got three fellow couch wizards here with me tonight: Jimmy, and Brian and KC. We're all gaming veterans. We've been playing these games for a long time. Jimmy has been making videos for a long time. I have not. So you're going to see me do a lot of dumb things tonight, probably like looking around and trying to figure out where I'm at with stuff. But we'll just get through the first one and then we'll see where we are. I guess
Appropriately titled Session 0.
Yeah, appropriately titled Session 0. And I posted something earlier today that Session 0 is the thing that everybody has been doing since the very beginning. It just has a new name, and it's a little more formal, I think, now these days. So,
Danny, should we maybe warn people who might be watching what they're really getting themselves into?
yes, this is, I guess I should say this is a grown-up show. We are, you will not be able to tell it by our behavior, but we are grown-ups. And so we use grown-up language when we feel it's appropriate, usually for emphasis or humor. We'll try not to drop too many cuss words in a row. I guess is that the thing that makes the difference?
I think that is it. It's chained cuss words is the
chained cuss words. Yeah, so we'll try to use them in isolation in the best way possible, and anybody also, we'll be doing shout outs all night. Any one of us, if you see somebody on the chat stream that is a friend of the show, please, everybody here should just feel free to give them a quick shout out. But yeah, grown up show.
Hi, Beth. Hi,
What was that?
Steven. I was just saying hi, Beth, and hi, Steven.
So I guess the theme of the show, it's late on a Monday night. We've all gotten done with a grueling weekend. And so Monday night is when we've decided that we're all going to get together and talk about this stuff. And I think the flavor of it is that we're all talking about our experiences, both running and playing in games, designing games, whatever our experiences are. And so it's not that I think the conversation is going to be super adult that way. I think we want it to be relatable to everybody. So we want good questions and we want to interact with folks as much as we possibly can. The theme of the show, though, is we all like to have a drink as we are going through the evening. This helps us get through. So I'll start by saying that this is a lovely Scotch. It is from Scotland. It's not one of those other Scotches. And I'm going to be enjoying this this evening. What about the rest of you guys?
Brian.
I'm not drinking Malort, which somebody in the comment section, Jake Bacon, for thanks for the Malort comment. I am, however, drinking some Dragon's Milk, plural, or possessive rather. Dragon's Milk bourbon barrel aged stout. It's only 11%. I should be fine.
Yeah.
That'll go great with that Game of Thrones that I just watched today.
It's as good as the last episode of Game of Thrones, I hear.
Oh, beep, 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 beep. We must be careful and warn all of our folks in chat that we will not spoil Game of Thrones for people who give a shit, which I am not one, but there probably are people out there.
That's why I said I hear. I haven't seen it either.
That's right.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Interesting. How many people here have seen it?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
I just watched it today.
They all die.
And I
At
don't
least Duff doesn't have the one with the wiggling tongue.
He's gonna be. It will show up. And we'll wait till Beth comes on and says something, and then it'll go wiggle, wiggle.
Right. We have
Just for you,
fans, such as they are, who we have like secret pacts with, so they know who they are.
profane pacts.
So I guess we should
Even-
start by, I don't want to go through this every time, and I think at some point we might have an intro that kind of says who we are and what we do.
We will.
I am, and Jimmy is the mastermind behind all that stuff. So I'm Danny Grimes. I'm from Wisconsin. I guess you could call that the birthplace of a certain style of RPGs. Certainly that's where TSR started and D&D formally started right here in my home state. I have been playing since the early 80s and running games since the mid 80s and attending lots of Gen Cons and running games there professionally, so on and so forth. My real life, I do creative development. So this is just an opportunity for me to talk about my hobby, the hobby I love so much, and the things that has brought the best friends into my life that I have, including these guys.
Here.
And that's, I guess that's all I really have to say. I already talked about what I'm drinking. So whoever wants to go next, how about you, Brian?
Sure. So I'm Brian Berg. I am the creative director for Total Party Kill Games. You've probably seen me at numerous conventions, possibly drank with me, thrown things at me. I don't know.
Not after 10 o'clock.
Fingers in
Oh,
the air.
zinger.
They had the finger salute.
Ow, shots fired. This is like, how far into the show are we?
Ouch
We
from the
haven't got
couch.
to introductions yet.
Yeah, you're right. I'll slow down.
So let's see. I'm an author, game designer. I've got credits in over 100 titles since 2009, having written for myself and many other publishers in my career. I do brand management for a video game company by day, and then I herd cats and stuff at night. So presently, I am drinking Rogue Dead Guy Ale, which I thought was only befitting for Total Party Kill Games. So here's to all of you who've enjoyed dying at my tables.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matt, why don't you go next?
Yes, I'm Matt, otherwise known as KC Rift, KC for Kobold Con, of which I'm the owner. It just happened 2-3 weeks ago. God, time is flying. Finally recovered.
Awesome show.
And
Awesome
so
show.
now I'm decided that I don't have enough have too much free time on my hands and need to go dive into this show. Very similar to everybody else. I've been gaming since the early 80s for me. I was a Redbox kid, I suppose, and have been DMing for most of that time. Took a bit of a break in the 90s, and now I've been back at it working with Brian with Total Party Kill Games. Published a couple of books, but nothing has stuck just yet. So we're trying out this stream and seeing how it works.
Yeah, that's all of us. I think these conversations that we have and that we're gonna try to have here before I get to Jimmy's intro, I think are really to reflect the kind of talk you have when you're done with the game and everybody's just sitting around and like, oh, this went well, this, so on and so forth. So I really like to see that. Jimmy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Shall do. Jimmy Duffy here. Go by Duff563 on the channels. I am the owner, creator, operator of Praetor's Rejects Twitch channel, YouTube, all the social media deals, running games for several years now. I'm an IT guy and film and video. Spent several years doing that, and so that's the technical expertise that I'm trying to bring, along with learning what these guys do and some of the publishing and things like that. Getting my feet all wet on that, but going to be running games on the channel for people, so we're looking forward to it.
Right on.
And
Yeah,
drinking
Jimmy.
Shiner. Just guess, I'm from Texas, so there you go.
That's
Are
right.
you drinking Shiner? Yeah, of course.
Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to stand up for you. I live in Iowa. We are very far away from Texas, but we love our Shiner Bock up here. So
Damn right, baby.
I'm right there with you.
Thank you.
We love our Shiner up here too.
Hey, I ate at Texas Roadhouse tonight in Idaho, and they didn't have any freaking Shiner. No Shiner. What the hell?
Yeah, well, it's all over the place. You know, all those deals that they make with selling beer, you got to have the right connections in the right state to get it done. So I'm sure we all.
You know
miss
what?
out.
So the funny thing was the waiter says, "Oh, they don't sell that west of the Mississippi." No, nobody.
I get it.
I'm going to get the audio sounds fixed so we can hear crickets.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you wanted to pull out a little map of the United States at that point? Like, or maybe the placemat would have a map on it. Hey, also, you know, this is our maiden voyage here tonight. So obviously we're going to have little things that need to be adjusted. Feel free to throw them out in the chat. I don't think we're going to be able to address them during the stream necessarily, but we are always looking to self-improve. So
I'm working on it.
I've given up on
I can tell Jimmy's got that look on his face like, I'm fixing shit. I'm getting things done.
Pissing me off.
All right. So I guess, you know, it's self-evident. If you're here, you probably have some interest in tabletop role-playing games. If you're here to watch, I know that's why we're all here. We all share an intense love of not only the books and the art and just the way you put an adventure together, but getting people together, gathering around a table, virtually or not. I think there's a lot to be said for either one, and just enjoying that, whatever it is that is created when you bring a lot of creative, sometimes very technically minded, sometimes very mathematically minded people around a table, and you try to share an experience. So I know what I love about it, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. Why don't each of us talk a little bit about, like, what was that first moment when you were like, oh, this is really cool, or just anything. It doesn't have to be a first moment. It can just be what got you into it. Why do you tabletop role play?
Oh, I'm not first on this question.
All right. Should I pick on Brian? I'll pick on Brian.
Sure. Yeah. I've said this many times before, but to me, gaming is about inclusion. And although you wouldn't know it from the internet forums, God, I hate forums. But the moral of my story is that the people that I've played games with, I've been friends with forever. It's a shared connection, something that bonds you to another human being through shared love of this hobby. And it doesn't matter what city I go to, I've got friends there who play games, and you know, it's very welcoming. And as a kid, you know, man, I biked all across our town just so I could go hang out with my friends all day and play games. And you know, really not much has changed except I have a car now. So
yeah, the distance is longer. The friends are more
right?
numerous.
Because conventions are just adult sleepovers.
Yes. Wow.
That's
Wow,
scary.
Brian. I'm going to stare into space and contemplate that. Yeah, it is definitely true. I mean, the friendship aspect of it, I think this is the thing that a lot of people kind of misjudge too about the place these games hold for a lot of us. The video game culture is certainly a different one. I think similar relationships can develop, but it's not, it lacks the physical intimacy of most games, I think. So what about you, physical, Brian, when we play games together, Brian, I feel a physical intimacy. Jimmy, what about you, Jimmy? I mostly know you from your Twitch channel, the Praetor's Rejects channel. So I don't really know. I haven't ever played in your game. I'm hoping to remedy that at a convention soon. So tell me what got you into this.
What are we doing?
We're just talking about our experiences with role playing games.
So
like
I know.
why?
So
Consummate professional.
the
Go back to
gaming
this one.
for me
Yep, trained
is
professionals.
yeah, we are trained. On the I wanted to say that it depends on what iteration, because there were a couple of times where I disconnected to go actually have life and do other things.
Who
Other
is
than
this
gaming.
guy?
I
Get him out
know.
of here.
And so I have to be honest about that. There were some years of college and then the club business and all that there and film business where I detached and wasn't doing gaming. But it's always been about the storytelling, creative side. I also have to admit I like being the DM, and there is a control and issue there. I'm not gonna lie about it, of running stuff. And you watch my channel. My players will sometimes get to me on it. And dial that back a little bit. There's no doubt about it. But it's the weave, because I do some homebrew, but most of it has been just for the channel, the modules. And it's easy to bring on, and learning on the virtual side over in real life games, how the interaction, and you having to with the people on the virtual side, you're missing something a little bit there. You are missing that physicalness. So there's some other things that have to go on in the channel that you bring to make it more engaging. And that's what I enjoying and learning. All that has been wonderful these last few years. So that's
So
it for me.
to riff off what you're saying, gaming has been the social glue that holds my friends together. It's the Monday night poker. It's
Ooh, social glue.
football night.
Social glue. We have an intimate moment with Brian's social glue.
You know what, Matt? More on you. Again,
And with that, Matt, I think you should tell us about your gaming experiences.
Actually, I've noticed that a couple of people mentioned that they were also drinking, so I kind of want to do see what they want to do.
Yeah.
If other
Anytime
people
we
were
do something dumb, drink.
I can't. I don't think I have anything additional to necessarily add, other than to reiterate the social aspect of it. Much like Jimmy was talking about a few minutes ago, that I had a break in the 90s, probably late 90s, when I left for the military. I thought my gaming life was over, and then when I got married, nothing had kicked back up yet, and so I sold it still kills me how little, I should say, I sold my collection to half price books, no less.
Ooh.
Because I thought my gaming, I thought that was over. And then lo and behold, the internet came around, and I could connect with all these people that I had played with in the past, that I'd gamed with in the past, phrasing. And it all came rushing back again. All that vigor, the excitement, and being able to use my creativity and diving back into the fantasy gaming was, it's mostly social for me, but it's certainly a ton of, there's a huge creative outlet as well.
So I see that Beth is shouting out Half Price Bookstore. I gotta say, I do love Half Price Bookstore.
Yep.
I just
Can you get my books back?
Right.
For
I don't
half
I
price?
don't see my own books.
Well, so I said I'd hold my comments to the end, but I think you guys have made most of them. I mean, truthfully, I'm a little bit different in that I am like a very dedicated hobbit. I live here in Milwaukee. I have always lived here. I'm probably always going to live here. I'm the anchor for all my friends that have moved other places and that I now connect with virtually. And I made a promise to myself a long time ago that I was going to, on average, play one game of D&D a week for the rest of my life. And I have pretty much had on average, because there was times in college where it was like 3 or 4 times a week. And then there was times where 2 or 3 months, 6 months, thank you, 2 or 3, 6 months would go by where I wasn't running. But generally, there was never any interruption. We've played this whole time. And I have friends I just played with 3 weeks ago that I've been in a campaign with for 24 years. So to me, it's all about those friendships that develop around it. And it doesn't really matter what you're doing. I just find gaming to be the most enjoyable thing to do because everybody's engaged. I've had, LAN party weekends where we all play video games, but it's just not the same. So I think that for me, it's really just the camaraderie and the friendships. So
for sure.
Speaking of
I'm
camaraderie,
curious if I can interject. What are some of the reasons we've got several people watching. What are some of the reasons that some of you have joined? Maybe we can chat about that as well.
Yeah.
As you continue.
Because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a social experience, maybe even a social experiment.
We're going to get to
Yeah.
that, Gary.
Yeah, we are going to get to that, Double Dog. We're starting to have some questions here too. So I don't know if I really thought through how we're going to do stuff from chat. But what do you think, Jimmy?
I can compile them if since I'm the secretary probably of this group apparently.
If you feed some of them up, maybe I can ask the ones. I mean,
Technical expert.
Technical expert, exactly.
I'm their
So
bitch.
the point of tonight's session 0 is to discuss session 0. For us, it's all of us coming together over the last year at various conventions and online and figuring out what it is that we could all bring to a show like this, and we'll see if that proves true in the long run. But session 0 just seemed really important because that is where you set expectations. That is where you discuss the parameters and the boundaries. And as boundless as some of these games can get, for me, the interesting part is when you run up against obstacles or you come against the edges of what's going on. So I think that, like, for me, we just call this game prep. I mean, what was everybody else's experience early on? So I'll just start with mine really quick. I had a GM back in 1982. He did all the work. We went to his house. He printed the characters. He made the characters.
That was high school for you, right?
It was high school for me. That was my freshman year. And now he wasn't my first GM. But he was the one who basically said, it's my game. I'm running it. We're playing, I believe it was Slave Lords. I think we were playing the A1 through 4 Slave Lords. He did everything. We just had to show up. He also was a fella who enjoyed a drink. So the end of the game could get a little weird sometimes with experience points and so forth. But early on, they were all really good. But he controlled everything. There was no setting of expectations, nothing like that. We just went room to room and we encountered things. Mostly we killed things. Sometimes we talked with people, but only if the module said the pixie will talk with the group. So for us, there was no session 0 way back when I started. Later, we did more of that. What about the rest of you? I guess let's start with Matt.
I didn't even comprehend the idea of session 0 until it's been very recent. I mean, within the last 24 months, probably 2 years, 3 years, maybe. Any of my session 0 was my prep for my game, like you just said, like that. Like I was that guy that this is the game that I'm running, and you guys can bring your characters, and that was pretty much it. So up until just a couple years ago, I didn't do anything for session 0. After hearing the idea, we have now, I mean, we spend, my regular group that meets every other Friday, we spend quite a bit of time in character development, making sure that, hey, even mixing in the backstories, making sure that the characters are all going to gel well together. We had the most recent campaign that we're doing for Pathfinder, actually. It's pretty funny because the DM, which is not me, says, hey, I want you to all develop your characters in secret and see what we come up with. And I mean, it was like, it blew everybody's mind. And we had been doing that. It's like we got into this role of doing that session 0 and getting all the characters to mesh well together and have this huge backstory before we even started. And then the guy says, hey, we're going to go back to the old days where there's no synergy. And it was like, oh my God. How do you operate that way?
Yeah. What about you? What about you, Brian? What do you when you run or when you play? Either one?
You know what I like to do? I like to develop like secret Facebook groups. I throw all my players into a group, and then I kind of give them a breakdown and ask some questions about what kind of game that they're looking for. And I actually don't run session 0 face to face. I generally do it online. And I can kind of gauge everyone's interests, give them all my feedback, and it's a slow kind of process where we burn through questions and talk about what everyone wants. And then eventually I can herd all the cats into one particular area that is a game that I also want to run. And then we can get together, make characters, and maybe even play half a session that's mostly, theme and feeling and just kind of getting your feet wet.
That's interesting. So CA Wright was actually saying that they use Session Zero to figure out what system they're going to play. That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
That is a baller move. Well, but that also speaks to a group that knows and appreciates the fact that the core idea of role playing is universal, and whatever, like, to me, system is like a flavor that you put onto your, like, I guess, performance, storytelling, or reactions, whatever it might be. Yeah. What about you, Jimmy?
Session Zeros for me became crucial when I say that at the very beginning of the channel, because it was a way for me to get to actually know the players to some degree. And I haven't, the last game I haven't really done it on, but the first 3 games that started up for me within inside a week, when I opened up the channel, I had everybody emailing me backstories, and then we ran a Session Zero, because it also then helped learn the virtual tabletop and Fantasy Grounds and getting some of that out of the way. So,
Sure.
Now, did y'all, hold on, I hate to interrupt. Did we hear the growl on the channel now? Because it is loud as hell in my ears. Y'all are going to hear it. Y'all
I don't
are
have
hear
the channel
it in Zoom. Yeah, okay.
I don't have the channel up.
Okay, so there's.
I see the teeth though. I see the mouth. That's fantastic.
So that's showing that's showing up. So that's Davenport. Dave Import. Okay.
Dave Import.
Dave Import. And he's our mimic.
Apparently it was very loud, judging by the chat.
Yeah. So it was loud. So I'll bring that down a little bit more. I figured it out, and I was dealing with Brian. Anyway, so Session Zeros have been definitely more advantageous on the virtual side, because now you get 2 birds with 1 stone. You get the players to learn, and then learn this system.
That's interesting, because you do most of your gaming right now on your stream.
Everything.
So you mentioned getting to know your players. So that's pretty significant distinction if you think about it. When I'm talking about Session Zero, I almost always I'm talking about the guys I've been playing with for 25 years. That's a good point. When you're talking about your Session Zero, getting to know your players is also a big piece of that.
Crucial.
Well, what's crazy is that the 4 of us, I suspect that the way we play games, run games, is very, very different. And I think that's a crucial element, because despite the fact that we're all on the same, little channel here, we're running totally different things.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone loves something different. We all have our own way to do things, and nobody is wrong. Well, Jimmy's wrong, but...
my goal is not to kill everybody, so we're distinctly different in that regard.
I want to kill.
Okay. Yeah. This kind of shit talking. Hey, fans out there, this kind of shit talking will go on all the time. So just don't feel bad if you also want to do a little bit of it in chat. I was.
Devil Dog's calling you out. He never got us.
That's scary. He's always going to call me out. So he's
keep you honest.
Yes.
I think you should drink every time somebody calls you out. That's probably what it. Yeah.
I think that probably is. Wasn't that in the bylaws? I was pretty sure. Yeah. Well, so I was just going to say that for me,
I see a TPK reference.
I always had the conceit in my game that it wasn't just my story. Like I often describe GMing as backing away from the players cautiously, while keeping your arms out so you can kind of keep them in the story, but you're not restricting them. You're just trying to lay down enough pavement that they keep having a place to run into. And a lot of that, like my game just recently, now just last week, we finally reached the tipping point at 7th level 3.5 D&D, where the story is now theirs. They've done so many things that they've written most of their own story now. So I'm now really just fading into the background and guiding it. So in order to get there relatively quickly and not take like till 15th level or whatever it might be, I use a book from Judges Guild from like 1981. It's called Cities. And this book, nobody knows about this book. I'll bust out a copy of it at some point. But in the back of it, there's like 12 to 15 pages called Character Catch Up. And it is basically what your characters do in their downtime. And you can invest, you can get married, you can be arrested, you can join the military, you can become a government official, you can rip off a government official. And all of these have modifiers that you gain and lose and so forth. And then there's a table that says what it all resolves with. So we started using that, and we only ever do it together. my memory is for shit. So like I can't remember everybody's backstory. So I need the players to remember each other's backstories so I can just step
Sure.
out of that, And so for me, like I've been doing that since like 1990. And
Sure.
we get out of 2 sessions and people know each other. They've met each other through this web of interactions, and they have relationships with each other already. And then we start, and we usually start at 3rd level just because I played 1st level so many times. I'm just over it. So my session zeros are usually 2 sessions long, lots of inter party, this is probably phrasing, right, Brian? This is
Whatever you're doing.
whatever this is. This is all the players coming together in session zero.
There's a lot of this.
There's a lot of this going on, but what results is the ability that people are always working on stuff.
Synergy. That's what that is. That's synergy.
That's synergy. Yeah,
Is that what that was?
yeah, exactly. So
Looks like a couple people have seen have that Cities book. So that's I'll have to go look that one up.
it's just an old school book. It's black and white. It's printed on really crappy old paper, but it's just wonderful.
Very cool.
So if we all agree that the purpose of session zero, I guess we all can agree that the purpose of session zero is just to come to a common place, whether it's we're playing 4th edition, which that never happens, or we're playing like a genre like horror. Then like once you get past those types of decisions, what are other things that we need or that we typically share with our players? I mean, I guess theme, tone, character, house rules. I mean, what are things that people feel are really important to share right off the bat? Let's start with Jimmy.
Yeah, there'll be, so on the virtual side, sharing, we're talking about rule system or just game, the table in general,
The
because
tone
Like
of your
what-
game.
Tone of the
Rules
game.
agnostic.
Yeah,
well,
what do you
okay.
like the very first thing when you sit down and start talking with people, like where does it start for you naturally? What do you say? Hey, we're all gathered
Don't
tonight.
be afraid to ask a question or
Dearly beloved.
understand. Especially, yeah.
Oh, man.
God almighty.
That's good. We are gathered here.
Man. So, yeah, for me, it's always been I'm making sure that they're getting to understand what they're doing, having, there's a fun with it, and not getting frustrated because you're now playing a game, but you're also the virtual side too. So now you're juggling more than just being able to play the game. You've got the technical side, and I'm trying to make sure that they're, especially the newbies, is what I will call them, those who are completely new to the system and game and all that. Yeah, that they make sure we're having fun and question me if they don't understand why I ruled on something or don't like it. Call it out. I have no problem with that. And
Right.
Bye, Beth.
So
Bye,
let me.
Beth. Bye, Stephen.
We promised a deep dive, so I want to ask a deep dive question for Jimmy. Like when people do question things, not just in session zero, but anytime in your game, how much time do you allow for that, and how do you either resolve it or like just say we got to cut that off?
when they're questioning something that I've ruled on, or just
yeah. Let's say I mean, not to be a jerk, but sometimes I've seen people at tables go, under their breath, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's not in the rules." Like
got several
how do you-
that will rule that way, or they'll go, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And
Wow.
so,
Well, and I think
oops.
you could. I think you could do an entire episode on that alone. I mean,
Yeah.
because you've had that happen a lot, where the GM is the arbiter, or is the GM there's a whole different thing you could talk about there.
You're the facilitator. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes where I'll just drop it and say, nope, that's the way it rules, because I'm reading it. I already know it's in front of me, or I'm going that direction, or I'll say, win me over, or roll it. Roll this deal and let's figure it out. Here's what's going to happen. Okay.
Right.
So,
And real quick, Jimmy, like just your 3 go-to game systems, like if what you would like to run, not what your players want, but like if you wanted to run something, what are the 3 things you love?
well, so there's always going to be the D&D side, but it's going to be, you guys are going to hate me. I had totally missed 4. So
Too late.
So thanks a
You're
lot.
dead to us.
Yeah, it did. So I cut my teeth on Castle Crusades several years ago. That's what got me
That's
back
all right.
into the RPG side. And like I said, if I could get the books and code it, I would do Earth Dawn. There's
Earth
no
Dawn.
doubt.
That's a shout out.
Yeah.
Wow,
Bringing it back, baby.
nice.
Circles, not levels, right?
That's
Right.
right. Yep.
Right.
Let's
Third-
just add a bunch of crazy dice and get silly.
Loved it. And I love the way the progressions of the dice worked. I just thought that was smart.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, you mean the multiple fours, multiple
Yes,
sixes,
and how it
then
just
some
kinda
sixes and some
progressed.
eights?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what about you, Brian? Like, what's your first club out of the bag for, like, we're sitting down talking about session 0. I want you all to know.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to go play style tone.
Okay.
Because you know what? Like, I know that everyone likes something different, right? But you're never going to catch me playing a My Little Pony game. All right. So I want to be very clear that there's very few unicorns and probably no rainbows in games that I run.
It's actually the reason Brian and I have never played together.
Because Matt only plays in games where unicorns are the primary player class.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so my whole point is, like, I run a very dark, sinister, sometimes brutal game because that's what I love, right? But if I had 6 players who said, yeah, that's not really what we want, I would have to think to myself, well, maybe I should run a different campaign. Maybe I should run it a different way. Because although I want to have fun, I want my players to have fun.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that, that's another whole episode, right? Like, how dark is too dark, and what can, how far can you go? There's been a lot of talk on forums that I'm on lately about, like, violence, sexuality, things like that in the game. And that's just not something, I'm not prudish by any standard. But I do know that there are things that are legitimately, like, no-go areas, and I know what they are. But then
That's my take too.
I meet people sometimes, and I can see, and not dogging on them, I can see that they're genuinely okay with, like, lots of decapitations, and things like that, because probably video games have showed some of that stuff. So that's interesting.
So I just want to point out that I've actually played in some of Rob Schwab's games, Shadow of the Demon Lord, and in his session 0, which was about 30 seconds before he ran the game, he was like, on a scale of like 10 to 20, because there's no 1 to 10 in a Rob Schwab game, how much mayo, how much ogre nudity are you guys looking for?
Yeah. Just give me a rough idea, because I've got a lot of pictures back here that I can share.
So,
yeah. Okay. Well, what about you, Matt? Real quick though, I wanted to ask you this. What are your 3 favorite systems to run? Brian.
We have me?
Oh,
Brian.
Oh, geez. Okay, so
Maybe not your favorites, just the ones you would do. Like, if you were going to run a game next weekend.
if I had to say I want to run 3 games right now, I'm going to run some World of Darkness, although I'm going to bastardize the rules because that is a game that's great on role-playing and terrible on combat. I'm going to run Savage Rifts because that is an amazing, amazing setting, also with terrible, terrible rules. And then I'm going to probably run some 5e D&D, just because that's your standard fantasy. That is your Bud Light of the D&D world. And you know what? People enjoy drinking it. So there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I think that
a terrible analogy.
I don't
Where do you
disagree.
guys have me on this show?
So Matt, what's the first thing you want to discuss in a session 0? What's your the main thing that's important to you to get across?
It's more like Pabst. Apparently, DM Fat Folks says it's more like Pabst.
Yeah. That's
Actually, I'm going to go with the guys in chat. So there was a couple of guys up there at the top that were saying the table rules are important, and especially in a group like Jimmy was talking about earlier, in a group that you don't know all the players, making sure that we're all on the same page with how the rules of the table, the homebrew rules, I hate that word, but the tabletop that session's rules are going to work. If you have something that's outside
systems,
alternate rules, the independent rules, if that's how that's going to work.
Independently published rules. Who are they published by? Me.
Yeah.
Right now, I just did it. It's on paper. But describing how that's going to work for everybody, I think is That's a pretty critical part of session 0. Second to that, well, now that I think about it, it might be first. So if first establishing the theme, I think everybody said that so far. So establishing this is a horror themed game, so gird your loins. Second, because this is a horror themed game, now these are the house rules that are going to apply. We're going to have a horror stat or a sanity stat. There's no phrasing there. That was legit. No phrasing. Anyway, these are the rules that are going to apply because this is a horror session or whatever. The superheroes. These are the rules. Physics no longer applies because superheroes. And then finally, hey, these are the boundaries. Where's the left and right bounds? Who's uncomfortable with gratuitous violence? Who's uncomfortable with gratuitous sexual description? Which, for me, I couldn't care less. I don't delve into that at all.
So
And
you know
it's
what?
completely unnecessary.
Amazing topic. I think most people play role-playing games for power fantasies, not necessarily sexual fantasies.
Yeah.
Yes. They
And
could
so-
converge. I think they converge sometimes, but yeah, I would agree.
For the most part, I am 100% okay with leaving that completely out of the games that I run, and I run very dark games.
Right. I say something to some of my players, not all of them heard me say this, but I say, we don't role play to the point where I care when you take a shit. And like, so therefore, like I just put a whole bunch of stuff into that outhouse. And I say, that's that door. When that door is closed, that door stays closed.
Spell components are in that outhouse too in my games.
Right. Unless there's a really funny joke to be made about being trapped in an outhouse, being dragged downhill by an Odiug or something because he's looking for lunch. But either way, I think we all kind of have no-go areas. But I think that's probably an interesting topic for a future thing too. And
Got it
obviously,
down.
when we bring the chat folks in on this, if you hear things we're talking about, you think it'd make a good episode or a segment. I think eventually we're going to segment this up a little bit more. We would love to hear that you want to hear about it because we think all of our words are precious and interesting. But I'd like to hear from people. No, Jimmy's like, no.
And feel free to tell us when to shut up too. So
Yeah.
I think Big Snack's onto something though. If you look at a couple of his comments, and so rules about metagaming and penalties for doing so. I think that's depending on the GM and depending on the scenario. You don't want people going in and looking at the monster manual, right? I mean, there's certainly situations where the role playing aspect should overtake the metagaming, the rules, and the GM, as we already discussed. I mean, in my opinion, I think the three of you that the GM is the arbiter, and if I say it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter what the rule book really says.
Yeah. This comes
I
to
think you said that wrong, Matt. I think it's arbitoire.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
Phrasing.
sorry, I forget my French accent.
Arbitoire.
I'll drink for that.
What are your three fave game systems, Matt?
Shadowrun, D&D 5th edition, and I wouldn't have thought about it earlier, but Earth Dawn is kind of creeping in there. But I'll have to, if I'm honest with myself, Pathfinder 1st edition Pathfinder. I haven't played enough 2nd edition yet to really. But yeah, Shadowrun for sure, 5th edition, and Pathfinder.
So real quick, I'm going to come back and ask each of the other guys this question real quick. What's your favorite game that you don't run or have never run? The one you have on your shelf because you bought it because the cover was good, or you heard somebody tell you it was freaking brilliant, but you have not run it.
Oh, that's a cruel.
For me,
question.
it's DCC. It's Dungeon Crawl Classics. I
Oh.
love everything about that deal, but I've never run a game.
You will on the channel because I just bought it. They just released for Fanny Crown. I just played my first one. I was phenomenal with the funnel. That was a blast.
The funnel is the best.
God,
yeah.
I had so much fun with that.
So what else? What do you got there, Bri? What do you got, Matt?
Is Steven still on the channel? I'll make sure I don't say his game.
No, he backed out. He has a game to run. Him and Beth both backed out. DCC is a lot. It looks like a lot of fun. In fact, I kind of chickened out of an opportunity to play it at Gamehole Con here last November. But that's one of the ones that I bought, and I have never I haven't even really cracked the book.
There's our first partner game right there. I'm gonna
Good,
run it
good
for us
deal.
all.
What
We're
about
gonna play
you,
one.
Brian?
Uh-oh. Legends of the Five Rings.
Oh, dude, I will run some L5R for you.
Okay, so I was gonna come back to L5R because we were talking about like games that we really wanted to run. L5R is one of those games that I ran in the past and I loved immensely because it was so good for role playing,
Oh,
so lethal for combat.
oh, Death Spiral, a Death Spiral. Those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we'll get into it in a different session. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what about
that's
you,
a-
Jimmy? What do you
Get-
want to
quick-
run? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to a good segue, and that's this channel is not only going to be us chatting about our skills. It's also I mean, we will be playing stuff as well. So if there's some games out there that you think that we should play, that you would like, for example, I mean, by all means, throw them out there. I think L5R would be that'd be a great game to start.
So I'll just say for my part on this topic that this will sound horribly pretentious, probably and old school, but I am a judge. It is my job to rule it on things, make judgments about things. So the rules are really there when I can't make a judgment. If someone says to me, I corner the shadow and I'm about to attack with my magic weapon, and they technically only get one attack, but they're like, but I got him pinned. Can I get another attack in? I might say in that moment, yeah, you take 2 attacks. You got him pinned. And somebody else might look at me and be like, yo, dude, you can't give him 2 attacks and not give me 2 attacks. But that was my judgment in the moment. I didn't ruin your fun by not letting you have 2 attacks all the other times. You had fun, but now this person's getting to do this. And I let people know that right off the bat, that I'm going to judge this game. I'm aware of things that they're not aware of. I'm aware of all the secrets. I'm aware of the weather. I'm aware of how slippery that lichen on the side of that mountain really is. I don't have a stat for it, but if they decide they're going to run up the side of the mountain, I'm going to make a really tough check for them not to fall to their death. And they just have to, if they say, what page is that on? I just want them to know from session 0, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen that aren't on a page.
It's on page. Shut the fuck up. Enjoy
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And I've got, one of my friends who plays in my game is actually in chat right now. We went back and forth because he wanted to believe, I think, and he's right, he's not wrong, that there's a right or better or official way of doing things, and the idea is to run it that way. I just don't do it that way. I don't mind looking things up if people really care, but generally I just make judgments. So I like to share that right off the bat. And I don't actually share that much about the setting or the theme or the tone. People, I kind of always run the same campaign too. Always has politics, always has horror, always has, mystical things going on. I like to run high magic, so people kind of know what I run. And my 3 favorites are L5R, by far, best task resolution system
Preach, brother.
ever. It allows you to bet on your outcome. It allows you to make raises. I could easily make that check, Mr. GM. I want a harder check because I don't want to just kill the guy. I want to kill him, take his sword from him, and cut off his head. So I can get a number that I have to hit for that. It's brilliant.
I didn't name my character Musashi so I could take easy DCs.
Right, or Hagakure. Exactly. And then exactly. In fact, I played a character that was so honorable that I was never allowed to use any form of deception. So I had to wear bright kimonos all the time, and I always had to confront people directly. There was never any subterfuge. Great game for role playing. Call of Cthulhu. I don't even think I really know the rules that well. I just really can run a Call of Cthulhu game. So that's my second favorite. And then I play Arcana Evolved, which is a D&D variant, but D&D. That would be my third one. And the one I don't run yet but would love to is DCC, without question. I think that's just super dope. So that takes us into, we talk a little bit about systems, and systems all have tone. I think, Brian talked about running kind of a grimdark vibe in his game, so World of Darkness makes a lot of sense. I know that Matt has a high nerd quotient, so I could see how Shadowrun would be really interesting because it's sci fantasy, right? So that kind of segues into our next thing. Like when we gather and we're trying to set the style of play, like, what does that even mean really to people? I mean, what does that mean to you, Matt? Like, what's the style? is it just like humor or not humor, horror or not horror? Is it what does it mean to you if you have to describe your style?
So I tend to inject quite a bit of. I try to inject. I wouldn't say that I'm funny by any stretch, but I try to inject a good bit of humor into the game. I feel like that is by far more memorable than just I know we're going to get controversial here, but box text.
Rage quit.
Keyboard tone.
going outside the box text and trying to inject a little bit of humor and giving some personality to the NPCs that are involved in that adventure, I think are go a long way towards providing my style to the game, or imprinting my style in the game.
I wanted to imprint your goblin in our Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtest with my mace.
I have a guilty confession. When I go into a business meeting with clients, I always have to make sure that I can swear, and if they laugh, I know I've got a good client. If they really are serious, I'm like, might want to pass. I have the same rule in my games. If I can't get everyone to laugh at least once, like I feel like I'm not doing like the full job. And there'll always be that holdout who's just like really serious. They're looking at they're making a lot of small notes on their player sheet. If you can get that guy to laugh, you're doing your job. What about you, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
What's your style? What would people take away from your game?
So again, I have a very particular style and the games that I run are all pretty serious. I don't generally do very funny games. If I wanted to play a Monty Python game, I would. I don't. So I like seriousness. I like drama. I like tension. I like conflict. So obviously the games that I probably, mentioned are good for that sort of thing, but that doesn't mean it's good for everyone. We were talking earlier, like, okay, we could play a particular game. Let's say I said, hey, let's run some Dragonlance. The four of us are going to be like, oh, shit, yeah, Dragonlance. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play that. Someone might want to play a dwarf. Someone might want to play a Kender. Someone might want to play a Tinker Gnome. Someone might want to play, some High Lord or a Paladin or something. Very, very, very different characters. And you either have to be an amazing GM to weave a story around a disparate group like that, or just say, look, here's the kind of theme and tone that I want to run, and I would like characters that match that. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there too is I always think of people like that are in or out of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's that Kender who's going to be a little goofball, then he's like, I don't mind including a Kender or something like a goofier character in a more serious game, as long as they are cool with understanding that they're the odd one. Like everybody else is super dark, and they're the goofy one who doesn't really understand why everything has to be so serious.
So if I can, let me caveat that by saying when I'm talking comedy, I don't mean, I mean mirth, not Monty Python.
Right.
Just
right.
saying.
I suspected.
Brian.
The shame stare. You, Brian, the shame stare. What about you, Jimmy? Like what I've watched you, so I kind of have some idea, but I'd like to hear you discuss it.
My theme.
Terrible.
Yeah, the way the games run, total chaos. No. So for the channel, so I had to go back looking at the channel because that's the latest stuff with Praetor's Rejects. The theme has always been, I am not a fan of the one that min-maxes, or they're going to be the hero that vanquishes all the monsters and they can do no wrong. We're all rejects.
That's good.
And
that's
that's the theme of the channel has been, they're going to make mistakes. So let's play off of them. I'm going to make mistakes. Definitely play off of them and take advantage of them. But I like the players to, and it's hard sometimes because you catch it where they are going to do something in character that is totally left field. I mean, they are gone. I've got it Monday nights. Gary knows what I'm talking about. One of the players, he's got a mad scientist, and he is all over the place, and it's funny. And it then pulls to the storyline. And I think you have to have those extra engagements, especially on the virtual side, because that's the engage, and you've got to have that. Other than sitting around the table, you're having fun with it. But if I'm running all videos or you've got the tabletop going, how do you want the people to watch? Because I'm also worried about my viewers and being engaged. Also,
I just got called out in the chat room, so I'm just going to take a drink.
Yeah. So for me, it's my stuff is the rejects, and I try to play off of that as much as I can, and I'm not always good at it. Yeah.
So Jimmy,
Yes.
I want to say that I love that. And I actually am one of the few people that love character flaws. When I design, I love having weaknesses. I love characters that have flaws. I love backgrounds that maybe you weren't always good. You know, maybe you're a paladin now, but because you're overcompensating for something horrible that you've done in the past. You know, so, and that might apply to me. I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But flaws
All
are
my
great.
players had to make a major flaw outside of the table rolls. When you're rolling up your characters, I want something deeper. I want something dark. I want something that you haven't told anybody. And then also there was a post, it was a Twitter post about a GM had his characters develop 5 truths and lies and rumors about him, and I've started invoking that in one of the games.
That's awesome.
I thought that was phenomenal. And
Yeah,
playing those out.
My youth game, I'm running a youth game next week again with 6 teenagers from 13 to 18 or so. And we, like, one of the very first things was they all had to write a secret about themselves in an envelope and give it to me. And then they had to write their true name, because in our game system, if your true name is revealed, healing works differently, but you can also be summoned if your true name is known. So some people keep their true name hidden. And then one player actually said, I don't even want to know my true name. So you write my true name and put it in the secret envelope. And and so then later she quested for it and learned her true name. Right. So this inspiration comes from anywhere, really, you know? I'd say that, my play style is really fast and loose. Anybody who knows me probably not surprised by that. I also use a lot of modern cultural references because I want my players to use their imagination, but I also want them to have some reference. So I might say everybody's blown back by the wind in slow motion, like bullet time from the Matrix. You know, and they're like, okay, cool. Because now we have that touchstone where we can all work on. Now, I know there are people who think, it takes you out of the game and so on and so forth, but I've never really met anybody who really had that complaint. Like, it's more of a theoretical complaint, I think. Like, they think it would be bad, but when they play the game, they don't seem to be bothered by it. So, and then I would say also my game is very much about listening to my players. I take copious notes when they are busy. And the best tricks that I ever play on them, if you call them tricks, is I'll ask a profound question of their characters. I'm not particularly profound myself, but a character can do that. And they'll just start talking. And I just sit back, man, and I just listen to them and I write notes. I write notes about everything they say, or I'm, somehow recording it. And then that all flows back in. I use those same ideas later in the game because now they're already in those people's heads. I don't have to provide them. They're providing themselves. And I can never provide an experience as serious as one that's going already on in someone's head.
Agreed.
So, you know what I mean? Like that, I want to.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You know what I mean? It's just hard to know how to get there, sometimes. But I would say.
Well, I think that's a serious. I mean, we started the conversation earlier, an hour ago almost, with what kind of DM are you? And I think that's a serious distinction between the arbiter and the guy who is facilitating. Like, the arbiter dude is the guy that is telling you how the story is going, and the facilitator is listening to the players and saying, all right, this is how I will answer your questions. And I'm telling you versus I'm answering your questions.
And I think that going all the way back, I'm glad you touched about going back, because this is what I was thinking about earlier. Why do we all gather around a table? Why do we all subject ourselves to the threat of death or bad things? Why do we subject ourselves to a random die that can let us down
Yeah.
at like the most inopportune moments, which is happens all the time? Like the best stories
every
are
time.
I rolled that fumble. In fact, I hear more stories about people rolling fumbles than I do about people rolling crits.
I think that's the truth. Yeah.
2 to 1, I would guess, for me. And I think it's because there is a psychology, a therapeutic function that's going on, not to get all high-minded about it, by gathering together, and you're like working with each other to get through stuff. You don't even know what it is. But I've seen people really change their personality over the course of a game, and I've seen some of those effects linger on in their life. I've seen people have success, and I almost feel like they're more confident afterwards.
I just want a quick shout out to our friends over there at Skull Splitter Dice.
Splitter. Mm-hmm.
Hey,
I'm
Earlier,
Splitter.
Yeah, they
Okay,
just,
Skull Splitter.
for those of you who have just been kind of following along, earlier on we had Stephen Radley McFarlane and Beth Damus playing along and talking smack with us. So,
And they had to leave, to run a game.
they've been in and out.
I think Beth is still here. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out why the messages aren't showing up in the chat.
Yeah, and Devil
Follow.
Dog.
So
Devil Dog. Sorry about the moderated, deleted ones. We'll figure out what's going on
yeah,
there.
I'm trying to see what that is. 19 messages. Somebody's popping the channel. I got to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
So let's
Beth,
that
you
was
just need to tell Brian to drink, and he'll have to. It's a rule.
so let's make this kind of a turbo round one, because we're coming up on an hour or a little bit over now, I guess. And I'd like
Hey, Anna.
Hey,
There's
Loki
Anna.
Grim.
She
Hey,
was our
Anna.
first guinea pig. She got to watch the
Beth,
really.
Come on, I thought we were friends.
So I'm just going to turn this a little bit to the left and say, we talked earlier about, the kinds of campaigns we like to run, so on and so forth. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead to an idea that we have about rules. Go ahead, Matt. Brian, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we got another shout out. Anna Meyer, the famed cartographer,
Hey, Anna Meyer, how are you?
on. So everybody say hi to Anna.
Hey, Anna. Hey, and I wonder, do these people eventually become friends of the show? I mean, how does that happen? How do you get
They're
that designation?
already friends of the show, but
Friends of the show? They're already friends of the show. Okay. Friend of the show, Anna Meyer. So rule books, right? We all talked a little bit about the games that we like to run and the systems that we like to run. So just kind of turbo round here. What in your preferred game system, what's your favorite book? The book you got to have. And let's just skip over DMGs or players handbooks or monster manual. Like whatever system you play, those books don't count.
man,
What's
that's a
the other
rule.
must have?
Hmm.
What do you put on the table when you start running the session? Because you're going to need it.
Ooh, not it.
Okay, well,
All right.
You
So-
go first.
I can always go first, but I want to give you guys the opportunity.
I think he
I
already
feel
said that.
bad
He said
about this.
cities earlier. He said cities from Judges Guild.
No, that's not my go-to. My go-to that's for beginning game, but yeah.
All right. If I was running Pathfinder, which is probably still in my top 10 of all games of all time, I would say Laying Waste. And that is our critical hit source book, because it makes critical hits more flavorful and less about numbers. And it adds to the role playing. So that's probably one of my more go-to ad books, if that helps.
Yeah, I like it. Well, so that was going to be the second part of my question. What game outside of your system do you have to have? So it can be either one. It could be like some people I know say they got to have Xanatar's Guide there because there's stuff in it, right, that they're going to use versus like something outside of system. What about you, Matt? What's your book, your go-to book?
Yeah, I've been trying to push the question off because I don't think I have one.
What about you, Jimmy?
What book? Oh,
Mic
well,
drop.
I'm virtual, so I've got them all open up. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have none.
You know what
He
I'm
has-
saying,
so-
Jimmy. I'm saying like the one you think is like, man, I could always look stuff up in this.
Outside of you're talking about outside of the core 3?
Yeah,
books?
sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm looking at them all on my shelf over there. So any of the next two, the Elemental, the books, I have them all open. I'm sorry that you're gonna hate the question.
No,
and
it's
answer,
perfectly reasonable.
because
You're virtual.
they're virtual, and to share the part of the Fantasy Grounds and the Ultimate License, and why I did it is I buy it all, and then my players it doesn't cost them a dime to play in the game.
Yeah.
I share it all.
I'm with I am with DM Fat Folks though. Fiend Folio is good. Ultimate Campaign also very good. Anna.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some goodness in those. Anything that's going to reference play style versus mechanics is good. But I can't think of any one particular one that I'm like, oh, I got to have that when I'm going to start this game.
Okay. I have a round 2 when you guys are ready.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So
whenever you're ready.
my book, I'm going to pick 2 because I'm the MC, so I get to pick 2. One is this book right here, which all of my players, you won't be able to read it, but this is a book called The Aphanian Helps. The Aphanian Helps. This was written by my first GM ever. And
Oh, wow,
it is from 1979, and there's a lot of cool stuff in it, but the main
Dot
thing
matrix printer right there.
is the crit tables are ridiculously off the hook, nearly pornographic in the violence. They are terrible, and I swear to God, anytime anybody rolls a 20 or a 1 in my game, DM Fat Folks can tell you right there, I'm like, you want me to roll from the book, from the Aphanians? And they're like, nobody can ever resist saying yes, but all of them fear it. The other one is Jim Pinto's
Uh-oh, got a shout out.
that book you have, Brian, The Toolbox.
Oh, my second one?
The toolbox. Yeah.
The Toolbox. Because when I need a name, when I need a marital status, when I need a poison type, when I need a type of snake that might find you after midnight on the plains of Ghazal, it has all of those. There's a table for that. So
That guy.
And speaking of toolboxes, Jim Pinto will be on our show. That's for you, Jimmy.
Yeah, I get the drums. I get the drum stairs new. So,
Hey, I'm with C.A. Wright. Tome of Adventure Design is a dope book.
Mhm.
That's a really dope
yeah.
book.
Yep. Okay, so I'm getting excited over here.
Round two. Go ahead,
Hey,
Brian.
easy,
Go ahead.
easy, fella.
All right, so my second book that I really love to throw at any game system, but specifically like D&D-ish games, Pathfinder, D&D, whatever. A little, maybe even slightly unknown system called the Primal Order. And the Primal Order is Wizards of the Coast's first product. So it is a massive overlay, like a rules module that just slaps on top of your game, and it makes gods. They are not just things with armor classes that high level characters slice and dice. No, they're like I snap my fingers and I can create planes of existence. I can wipe out planes of existence. Mortals are nothing. So very cool book.
That I do not. I know a lot of books, but I've never heard of that book, and I'm super excited to know more about that, Brian.
Yeah, and I gotta say, that was one of the more disappointing things about I think Monster Manual 2, Fiend Folio, a couple of the later on books in the original D&D, AD&D world was that they started giving stats to gods. And you're like, Bast, really? Ra has an armor class of 20. I can go kill Ra. That's great.
Right.
That was always kind of disappointing.
We just in my current game right now, it involves dragons, and I never want to do the same thing twice, and I never want to do something that somebody else is doing. So obviously, when I started this, I didn't want to have dragons that you could fight. So my dragons are like celestial entities. They don't have stats.
Right.
They have things they can do, sort of like 4th edition lair actions.
Mm-hmm.
Which we should do a show on 4th edition, because that edition gets slagged off a ton, but there are genuinely brilliant things in that system, and no shit.
Yeah, there's some good nuggets in there.
Because it was designed by the same people who designed all these other versions. They're not stupid. They were just trying to design something different, and to the extent that it failed was probably more of a public perception and backlash issue rather than the fact that it wasn't any good, because it was actually pretty good.
Well, I think Steven's already logged off, but one of the biggest things that I carry over to any game, the minions concept, like the whole the one hit point dudes, the guys that you can kill with one hit. It all turns into action economy there, and I love that.
So since we're on the topic of talking about rules, let's start with.
Hold on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
So we have approximately 15 minutes until we're going to announce the winners of our
Yes.
Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes Special Edition.
The swag.
We have 2 mugs to give away and a T-shirt. We're going to announce those here in about 15 minutes, right as the show. Well, now maybe 10,
5 minutes
10.
before.
Let's say 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
So
much
we have
winning.
a whole bunch of topics that we didn't bother to cover. So
We knew we weren't.
No, but so getting back onto our rules topic. I don't really care if we don't get through all the topics. Is there anything you absolutely want to get through, Bri?
So
Because because session 0 sometimes takes 2 sessions.
absolutely. Let's talk about player empowerment.
Yeah, good.
All right. One of the things that I love to do is when I'm running a game is to be lazy.
Yes.
I want to do as little as possible
Yep.
when I'm running a game. Because seriously, I want to tell a story. And although I'm being facetious here, I don't want to spend all my time looking up rules. So I want to be able to run the story, let the players run the game. Okay. And so some of the things that I do is I hand off initiative. I hand off someone else keeping track of all the loot. And so much of the things that the GM doesn't necessarily have to be done by the game master. Empower those players. And one of the things that you might find is if suddenly you are doing less and you're concentrating more on the story, obviously you're going to do a better job of it. But also if the players are concentrating on certain aspects of the game, well, guess what? Maybe they are more engaged now too. And you'll find that your whole game becomes better because of it.
Yeah, I think
I think that's valid for sure. I mean, you have we have for a decade offloaded loot tracking to a player. I agree with you for sure on histories and backgrounds, making sure that the players are tracking that information. And to Danny's point earlier, if the players are driving the story, you can completely go off script and just answer what they're talking about versus, really worrying about the text box at all.
Yeah, for real. What about you, Jimmy? How do you feel about like that stuff? Oh, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm trying to answer. I hate to keep answering in the digital and the virtual side.
You're that guy. Answer that way.
That's why you're here, technical expert.
Sorry, I'm here. I know we're trained, but I'm watching it. Chuck, we got Babunski bringing a raid over from his channel. So
what up, Chuck?
Chuck,
What up, Chuck?
Good to see ya.
Up, Chuck.
Yeah,
Hi, Chuck.
I'll see him. I try to keep plugging, but we'll see each other. I think we're going to be on Lord Gosumba's channel Sunday night to chat about 2E stuff and show them some Fantasy Grounds. So show them
2E, say it isn't so.
Yeah, Grognard, some old, some new technologies and all that. So
are you talking Thaco?
I'm gonna let who's Chuck? Who is it going to be? It's one of actually Fantasy Grounds that's going to come over and show them. We're just going to show them some how we use it, and we're because I'm going to try to talk them in. I know they've run 5e on their channel.
Show them the chart. I'm just going to show them a chart.
Yeah, so, that's right. So much. Put it here, but we show screens. We don't show a chart in a camera. You know better. Anyway, so what was the what's the question again?
It's too late. The moment's the moment.
I've gone past it now. So
Yeah. I think
We'll just go on.
we've over.
Yeah, keep going.
As far as player engagement, I think that when you make
No.
what? What did I miss?
Heck no, it's on chat.
No, attaboy. Jake Bacon wins the internet. Heck no.
So good. Sorry guys. I couldn't.
Okay, I need a reset here. What were we talking about?
Player engagement, and I just went right past it. So there's always a task in virtual to engage the player, and if you haven't caught them in the storyline and the gameplay, bringing them back around is damn near impossible, in my opinion, especially online. You guys can do it at the table a lot easier, but online it's definitely more difficult. There's no doubt about it. So
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I find that for me, it's a matter of keeping all my player types happy. So like we have people, I'm starting to really get away from saying min-maxer in those pejorative terms. I think people that tend toward that, I kind of refer to them as mathematicians. They just are interested in the underlying systems. They want to make things make sense. And they hate when I say things like it's magic, not physics. So, and it's so hard to get around that because we describe the fireball occupying a space and it acts like fire. But I have to remind people constantly, it's not fire. It's a magical thing that burns you that looks like fire, but it's not fire. Fire is the thing over there in the fire pit. This is some crazy freaking weird stuff. So it's really sometimes challenging to engage those people at the
Especially if
same
you're playing
time as you're engaging people who are like really into the story and really want that next interesting clue. And I find that a couple of things help. One, somebody said about giving the players the initiative, letting them run the initiative. We made this. This keeps track. And I give it to my players to run because then that guy who kind of wants to tell everybody what they should be doing and when, this is his prop. This is I'm handing over the mantle to you. Go ahead, do what you want with it. And we also sometimes hand out camp roles. So when they're on the road, somebody negotiates for food, lodging, all that kind of stuff. They have a skill for it. They can, we know what that's going to be. Someone's the cook, someone's the guard, somebody's the da-da-da-da. It gives opportunities for people to play a role outside of I am the fighter. Maybe I've had player characters who said, I sing a ballad every night before bed. Like I pull out my lute and I play. I'm not a bard. I just happen to be able to play, and that's what I do every night. And so I give like a bonus. Everybody gets one more hit point for sleeping or whatever. And it gives everybody some little thing to do. So that's how I kind of deal with player engagement.
Beautiful.
All right, so we're at the 5 minutes till mark.
Let's give some prizes away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Hey, these guys have earned it.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody who joined us in chat. Cheers,
Thank you all for our
Pancho.
first session.
Cole.
You guys deserve it.
I think we're at our question, right? So the winner question of the
Oh God, I have to look that back up.
Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes special edition, collector's edition, special.
Yeah,
special.
Matt, do you have the question open? Why don't you?
I do. I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. Right
go
here.
ahead. You do it.
So this goes out to. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm going to read the question first, and then we'll talk about
This
the
one
winner.
goes out
And
to the one I love.
My homies. Relating to other questions regarding terrain and miniatures, theater of the mind or minis and map. Why? Do you take your players into consideration when making these decisions? So are you a theater of the mind or are you a minis and map guy? Jimmy.
I will be honest, at the beginning of this channel, it was always about maps because it's easier to play it that way and engage everybody because, most of the time it was murder hobos you're dealing with, and that's how they're playing. I will say that with the Waterdeep Heist, Dragon Heist, which I have been a huge fan of and I'm going to run it for the channel, the theater of the mind and not worried about the maps and engaging is because the way it's written, I am in love with it, and so I am now finding that equilibrium between the two. So,
Brian.
Okay, wow. I could actually talk a little while about this. So does anybody else want to jump in first?
Yeah.
apparently he has a big answer.
I do both, and I do more than both. I some nights if it's I can just sense what kind of story it's gonna be. It's Theater of the Mind is always my go-to. I use a whiteboard where it doesn't really matter if people are positioned very particularly. And then when it matters, if people are like 3 weeks ago, we ended on a crescendo where like the evil sorcerer came out of the cave and we stopped right there. So next week I bowled out all my Dwarven Forge and I built a huge cavern system on my table because I knew the next week was going to be primarily that. And then I also have a screen that I can project a virtual map onto. So I use, honestly, DM Fat Folks will back me up. We use all 4 of those interchangeably at any given time.
So I would say I think I'm in the Danny camp in that if I'm going to game something and I know that we can accomplish this without going to the map and going to minis, then I'm going to do that. I've got it in my head and I feel like I can contain the audience.
That's the why. Why do you do it, right? Because you know you can get away with it, right?
Right. Yeah, I feel like I can imprint this picture on the players at the moment, and if I don't feel like it's going that direction, then I will absolutely put down a map and absolutely put down minis.
Yep.
Brian.
So you guys are spot on. I guess my only caveat is if you set down miniatures, you are limited to that. If I tell a story, your limit is the player's imagination.
Yep.
All right. And I have players who all love very different things. So some of the guys really enjoy combat. Some people really love the map exploration. And some of them just are there for the scare, the story. I'm running Curse of Strahd right now, by the way. So Curse of Strahd. So I don't always want to show people everything. Sometimes I want to describe things and have their mind be guessing as to what is happening. So if it's story driven or if it's a random encounter that doesn't really matter, then hell, why not just storytell it, right? But if it's a tactical battle, give them miniatures or put it up on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, so that's my 2 cents. I try and use both when appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a common answer. What I try and lean away from is this or that. I completely agree with both of you. I think it's a combination.
Gaming is an art, not a science, right?
Yep.
We are almost done. So we do have also the link winners for sharing on social media. I don't know if those individuals are online, but we have a coffee mug going to Ace. I'll give him a second. No Ace.
I don't know.
We have a T-shirt going to Jeremiah Driscoll.
Congratulations, Jeremiah.
Yeah, right on.
Like 2 minutes ago.
I'm going to call you JD because it makes me feel like I know you better already.
And we have a second coffee mug going to Matt Devlin.
Matt.
Congratulations.
You can tell we're not used to doing this kind of thing because we're all just like, oh, Matt. Okay, great, Matt.
That guy.
Matt, you won.
I want to see him, or at least hear about him drinking out of the Mimic cup, maybe with juice, coffee.
It's funny because it has the tongue. So
it does.
It's good.
The wiggly tongue.
I hear the tongue is popular. Oh, ooh.
So congratulations to those of you who are the winners and you're online. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting our channel. If you're not on right now, we will contact you via email. Well, not that you really care because you can't hear this, but we will contact them via email. Danny, let's close this up.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks to everybody who showed up to watch us just genuinely do what I think is something we love to do, which is talk about gaming, think about all the various ways that these games can be played, types of games that can be played, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to see more of this in the future. We're going to have people more famous than us on, I promise, and they're going to tell you things that they do, and you'll be surprised that many of the things that all these people do are the things that you're already doing. it's not rocket science. It really isn't. Everybody can bring their own vibe to this hobby, and they can bring their own type of game and own interest to this. So I'm as excited to hear from you all about what you think is important as I am to ever say anything that I think is important. So, and we are. You can find us. First of all, you can find us here every other Monday. 2 Mondays from now, I have no idea what that date is. Somebody who's better with a calendar than me, let me know. 9 p.m. Central CST. We're on Facebook. We're just kind of starting all these things up. We're on Patreon. You can find us by searching for Wizards of the Couch. You can find us by searching for Couch Wizards, Wizards Couch. Just look for that. Where is it? Where am I looking?
Down the bottom of the Twitch page under the video feed, they will find the social media link buttons all there for what we've got.
I'm not watching the stream, so yeah, there you go. Perfect. So Jimmy will be our call to action. He's our living, breathing call to action. And so check us out there. We're always chatting there. I think one of the things that we're going to really try to be is as accessible as possible to answer questions. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, but there'll be other things going on. All of us do actually have interesting things. Praetor's Rejects. You can find those games coming out on our Wizards of the Couch channel. Check out TPK Games. Lots of cool stuff there. And as far as conventions go, you just missed Kobold Con. Don't miss it next year. But you will see us, some variation of this group at Gen Con. We'll be at Gamehole Con. We'll be at Gary Con. We're going to show up at all those places too. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So please reach out to us on social media. You know what? If you have a great idea or a great question, hit us up. Chances are good. If we think it's great, we'll probably talk about it online, and we'll make sure that you get the shout out for it.
Absolutely.
And of course, if you want to help continue to make all of this possible, please support us. Tell your friends, even if you can't pay, or support us on Patreon, share our links. Help other people learn about our show.
Yep. Because our goal is just to help people.
So programming, I'm going to put a couple posts out on Facebook because yes, Praetor's Reject, because we're going to bring a couple of shows to the channel. We're going to have an industry game. We're going to have a sub game or partner, Patreon game. And then I want to put together for the viewers, we're going to run something Thursday or Friday night. I'm going to post it on Facebook and get some feedback for everybody of what those sessions will be. And we'll see what everybody wants to do.
Beth Damas definitely said she would be on video, on beer, with beer. On beer? With beer.
With beer? She will bring beer?
That was the reaction I was waiting for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, no wonder that guy got censored.
Yeah.
Chuck Wright.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some sort of ad policy at this point. Ruthless self-promotion is reserved just for the four of us. Okay, well, hey, everybody out there, all our mimics out there, please share, distribute, tell people what ridiculousness is happening here on twitch.tv, Wizards of the Couch. 2 weeks from now, 9 p.m. Central Standard, twitch.tv, Wizards of the Couch, and we are out!
Later, folks. Thanks for watching.